I've often said hashtag HR is not your friend. That
Mm,
sometimes, depending on where you are, you
mm,
cannot trust your HR department to do the right thing. Once you go to them and say, this is happening, then all of a
and it
sudden they go,
shift.
then yeah, the whole focus begins to shift. And now you're actually become the target as opposed to them helping you and
Yeah,
dismantling and disrupting the environment in a way that where everyone can thrive.
yeah.
How do we, and what do you say, especially not just for people who are victims, but I even say witnesses, because a lot of people, as you mentioned, they are afraid to speak up, whether you are the victim and or a witness. And witnesses are believed, I believe, are told, you know, maybe not specifically say they don't say this specifically to them,
Or
but they know when they go speak to somebody in HR and they say, "Oh, well, did you hear and what really happened?" They know that if they approve or affirm what happened, that they're going to be retaliated against. And so in this world of, as the kids say, trying to protect their bag, meaning their finances, their
right.
salaries, their
Yeah.
paychecks, people just kind of go, "Well, it wasn't really that bad," or "I saw a little bit, but I didn't see enough." And therein lies another problem. Not only victims, but witnesses are not protected and
Mhm.
given agency to speak up and feel protected in
Yeah.
a safe environment.
Yeah. Again, I think it's difficult to speak to or for every person that may be in that situation because
Mhm.
it can be weighted for every person. It can be
That's
weighted
true.
for those that are sitting in observation of the person that's really going through. It
Mhm.
can be, like you said, this person is hanging on by a thread financially, and they're like, I can't afford to lose my job, and so I'm just
Mhm.
going to be silent. There's a myriad of reasons why people don't speak
Yeah.
up. And I
Yeah.
think that from this seat, I want to honor people for their choice in
Yes. Yeah.
how
Mhm.
they support or don't support, because we don't always know the why behind their story, you know?
That's true.
Um, but I think that if we look at it from maybe a more kind of larger perspective or larger vision to say,
Mhm.
what is it that we want the outcome to be? And I think it goes back to, how do we hold companies, or the people in positions accountable to
Mhm.
their employees,
Right.
right? To make sure that, people do feel a sense of, you know, I don't know anybody that says, "Oh, girl, I just interviewed for this job. I hope they treat me so poorly. And I hope I cannot stand the job. And I hope that everybody there is just horrible when I get
Yeah.
there." Nobody says that.
No, it is.
People look for jobs. They take jobs, generally speaking,
Mhm.
because that is where they want to be, right? Yeah, sometimes people take a job because they need it, and we get that. So that may not be the happiest place that that person would like to be. But generally speaking, when you choose a job, there's something about that job that you're wanting to, really say,
Yeah.
wow, the people that I interview with seem like they're super dope. Like, I'm excited to work with them, or I'm going to
Mhm.
be a manager. Like, I'm really excited to be there. And then when you get there and it shows up differently than maybe what you expected, I think
Mhm.
that's where things can shift. And so I'm going to say, for individuals to take that step back to reflect on, where
Mhm.
am I at in all of this? How am
Mhm.
I being impacted by all of this? If I've spoken up, if I've said what I've needed to say and it hasn't changed, do I need to do something differently? Like, do I need to look for an alternative position? And I know people will say, but that's not fixing the problem or the issue. And sometimes it's, again, like I said, so big that it may just be for you to make a different decision. And
Yeah.
then potentially when you get on the outside, you may be able to do something to help with that transition on the inside,
Right.
right?
Right.
So it always looks different. And I think it's what we're talking about. There isn't this one easy solution answer to this problem, right? And when we talk about workplace bullying, it isn't something that just started a year or 2 years or 5 years ago. This has been
It's an
going on
aggregate for a long time.
a long
Hmm.
time. Yeah.
I wonder if we should talk about too, as you mentioned that in terms of the aggregate of all of these, at least for me, it was the aggregate of experiences over 15 years.
Mm,
So many times we are just trying to navigate the best way we can. And we're
yeah.
fallible. We're human beings. People make mistakes. But I've always
Yeah.
said, when there's a mistake, if you own it and we discuss it, have a conversation, hopefully have a meeting of the minds, understand the error of our ways, if you will, and try to grow and improve. No harm, no, well, I won't say no harm, no foul, but at least we're growing, right? When you know
Mhm,
better, you do
mhm,
better.
mhm,
But it's when people resist the
mm,
truth, that's when we have a problem.
mhm,
How do we harness the truth coupled with when is it time for me to say, okay, enough is enough?
mhm,
When is it time for me to walk away?
mhm.
I mean, I had an aggregate of 15 years of things that happened,
Yeah,
and yet I loved my job.
of
I
course.
loved doing what I
Of course.
did, and
Yeah.
I loved the community. I loved serving, but yet I knew that I had to leave because I was suffering and
Mhm,
dying.
mhm,
And it was, we talk about humanity. This was a soul,
mhm.
about my soul. My
Yeah,
soul was dying
yeah.
where I didn't want to go in anymore. Even working from home during COVID,
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
still going on. And I'm like, okay, I thought it was going to be better when I got home, when I'm not sitting.
Right.
And it was still the same. I was like, okay, I just have to deal with you
Didn't
now
change. Yeah,
over
yeah,
Zoom or whatever. Like it
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
change.
yeah.
I'm like, well, the culture just followed me here on the
Mhm.
west side of Indianapolis. But right? But how do we, when do we finally say enough is enough when we realize that, you know what, this environment isn't going to change. So
Mhm.
now it's time for me to change my environment
Yep,
and walk away and
yep,
say, sayonara, bye,
yep.
drop the
What
mic.
what you said
Mhm.
about feeling like death.
That's what it was. Yeah.
For individuals, it's about noticing your physical. Now we're starting to
Mm.
talk more about our physical bodies, right?
Because
Our
the physical and the
men-
mental are
yeah,
connected.
yes. So, I ask questions a lot of times when people say they're not sleeping well. Like I'm just up all hours of the night, or I go to bed at this time, but I wake up seems like every hour on the hour. I'm not sleeping
Mhm.
well. Um, for me, I'll speak specifically for me. At one point, I used to get sick every Sunday. And then I
Mm.
started seeing this pattern with other people that I knew or clients that I've worked with in the past. They started
Mhm.
getting sick every Sunday. I get this, oh, my head starts hurting, or I get this stomach ache, or I have to go to the bathroom consistently because
Mm.
why? Because everybody starts go back to work on Monday.
They call them the scary Sundays.
hmm
I learned that
So
recently, the scary
Monday,
Sunday.
I don't feel
Mhm.
good. Tuesday, it's
Ugh.
by Wednesday, I'm feeling okay. Thursday, it's like I'm good. Friday, I'm chilling.
We're like, "Woohoo,
Saturday,
it's
it's
the weekend."
amazing. And then Sunday, it drops back down again. You
Yes.
got to
Mhm,
pay attention to what your body's saying.
mhm. Our body tells us so much. For
Mhm.
me, the cancer
Mm,
was a result of the stress. And I
yeah.
know some people say, "Oh, well, cancer is not caused by stress." Oh, baby doll, it is. It
Mhm.
is. It is.
Yeah.
It
Oof.
is. Your body is, there's a reason why we call it
Yeah.
diseases, because your body is diseased.
Mhm.
So when your mind is affected, Your
Yeah.
body is reacting to that stress.
Mhm.
And the cancer, the triple negative cancer, was caused by the stress.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the stress.
Yeah.
I was trying to navigate, and finally, I just said, I've had enough." So yeah, so is there a point in time? Is it like three different times where this happens? Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, I think it's obviously everyone is different.
Mhm.
Your situation is different. How can
Yeah.
people prepare when they have made that decision to walk away?
Mhm.
How do they prepare themselves, not just mentally and emotionally, but even financially a little bit? Have you ever had to talk with clients about that when you were like, okay, doctor, I've decided I got to
Mhm.
go?
Mhm.
What is the average time from that moment when you make that decision
Mhm.
to when you finally walk away? Is that obviously different for everyone? But
Right.
what do you recommend, if you will, when
Yeah.
someone finally says it's time to leave?
I think as you said, it is different for everyone, and everyone's situation is different. Let me say that.
Hmm.
And I think that what you're talking about is a lot of different aspects. For some people, it's financially, like, I need to have my finances a certain way. For some people,
Hmm.
they're like, I can worry about the finances later because I am so stressed or sick that I can no longer do that, because me continuing to go the next 6 months that I might need on the
Hmm.
financial end, I'll probably be dead by then because I'm so sick, right? Physical sick,
Yeah.
mentally
Yeah.
sick. Um, so it honestly, I think for every person, they just have to determine what their breaking point is. Because you don't want
Yeah.
to get to the breaking point, it,
Mm,
it's hard to pull yourself out of that. So what I'm
yeah.
saying is just recognize where you are, you know, what's abnormal for you. I'll say it in that way,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
So if
Okay.
for
Yeah.
me, I know that I'm not usually a snappy person. Like, I don't, if you call me, I'm not answering the phone. Like, what, girl? You just called me 5 minutes ago. Like, what do you want? Well, gosh, you're awfully
Mhm.
snappy today. Like, I'm talking to Keisha 3 or 4
Mhm.
times this week, and every time she's just been grouchy. That's not like her, right? So it may be people around you that are starting to tell you things that they're noticing about you that are
Mhm.
abnormal, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Black women, I know for us, it's our hair. So when I hear my hair is falling out, like, I wash my hair and I'm
Mhm.
just pulling handfuls of hair out, that's stress. Skin
Mhm.
rashes, weight going up or weight going down. Like I said, just changes in sleep patterns. Um, Levels of motivation. Like, I'm not motivated to do anything.
Mm.
Like, I got enough
Yeah.
energy to go to work and do what I need to do when I come home, and at 5:30 I'm asleep, or 4:15 I'm asleep,
Mhm.
and I can sleep the rest of the day, right? Or I
Yeah.
can't sleep
Yeah.
at all. So just those different things, listen to what other people are saying if you have people
Mhm.
around you, but also listen to your own internal gut and what
Mm.
your body's telling you, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
There's something that you said. I think about the fact that as a therapist, from whence you come and what you speak because you have been there.
Mhm.
Just briefly explain how you got to be involved in helping women, helping people with workplace bullying and abuse, and why it's so important to you.
Yeah. I think for me being a therapist, people come with all sorts of different types of problems, issues, and concerns.
Mhm.
And anything that's, work related, again, I think I just go back to saying, like, it depends on the person and what they're bringing. Sometimes, yes, the workplace stuff can be an issue, but I've got other life things going
I
on.
was
Yeah.
speaking more specifically of your personal experience.
Not being understood, not being seen, not being heard. But, I've been doing the work that I've been doing for 25 years, but I've been working since I was probably like 15 or 16. And I could say the
Mhm.
same thing even then, that, working in
Wow.
fast food, like,
Mhm.
you're
I
just
was
kind of
Dairy
told,
Queen.
like, yeah, you know,
Mhm.
do the work, do what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to clock in. You have to do this, you have to do that. And it was so like everything was just chop, 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 chop,
Very regimented.
that
Mhm.
it didn't feel like you're necessarily part of a team per se,
Okay.
but
Uh-huh.
that you're here to do this job. Like, it was almost kind of like, you're here to do this job. We're not, when people say, like, well, I go to work to work. I don't necessarily go to
Mm.
work to make friends. It almost feels like the employer is saying, you come to work to do your job. You don't come to work to be supported and be part of a team or a family. That
Yes.
isn't
Mhm.
always the case. And for me, that wasn't always the case in different places that I worked. But in the places where it was, again, for me, I'll speak up. I don't have a problem to speak up to say, hey, this doesn't feel right, or maybe this thing isn't working, or this definitely isn't working.
Mhm.
Sometimes it
Mhm.
changed and sometimes it didn't. And in those
Mhm.
times where it didn't, I had to make a decision for me whether or not that was someplace that I wanted to be. And if it wasn't, then time was up. Yeah.
And that's okay. I think sometimes we feel guilty,
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I've been here for 10 years and, I'm irreplaceable," or "I really love this place," or "I love some of the people who work here." Not everybody is bad, but, the toxicity is too much in some departments or some people whatever it is, some people just don't want to
Yeah.
leave,
Yeah.
and they are caught in the quagmire of I don't want to go. This is the place that I started. I was going to retire here. They have all of these pipe dreams kind of laid out or plans in their mind.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't match what they have, that dream, that
Yeah.
idea, that vision,
That can be
that's a part
difficult
of
as
a
well.
loss. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
loss. They have to grieve
Yeah.
that. I mean, I had to. I never got a
For
chance to
sure.
say goodbye. I never got a chance to, have the so-called retirement party, if you will, retire
Yeah.
from the industry in Indianapolis. Like,
Yeah.
I will
Right.
never have that. And I
Yeah.
thought, here's my hometown. I'm going to be able to retire. That will never happen. And I had to grieve that. I literally had to grieve it.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why the very first thing that I tell people, even on my Twitter and all my other pages when I first started this show was that I wanted to apologize because that city gave
Uh,
me so much.
mhm.
It gave so much to me and
Yeah.
I felt like I owed everyone an explanation. But I
Yeah.
literally dropped the mic without warning because I knew that if I came back in that Monday, I,
That it
I didn't even think I was going to make it to Monday.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't think I was going to make it to Monday. So I had to make
Yeah.
a choice. But
Yeah.
I want to say that one of the things that has really helped me is to find joy in the simple things in life. I think I
Mhm.
was so caught up in of the crazy at
Yeah.
the office that I forgot to just enjoy the simple things in life.
Yeah.
What brings you joy? How
Yeah.
do you take a break? How do you find
Mhm.
respite? Because I know a lot of people are looking for ways in which to remain well physically, but also really
Yeah.
emotionally. What
Yeah.
is your advice for that? For people who are going through this
Yeah.
and they're not quite ready to walk away yet, but
Mhm.
what can they do to fill in the gap, if you will, while
Yeah.
they're going through it until they make that decision that, okay, it's time to
It's
leave?
time. Yeah. One of the biggest things I say is, work is usually 50% of someone's day, and it's probably a little
Oh,
bit
yes.
more than that, right?
Mhm,
But let's just say it's 50%. So if you're looking at a pie per se, we take 50%
mhm,
of that pie out, now you've got 50% left. A quarter of that is probably going to be sleeping. Now you've got, what, three quarters left of that half.
mhm,
What are you
mhm,
going to do with the rest of that time? Right? So if you've got
mhm,
For some people, children, families, that's going to take up. So you've got this little sliver left. What is it that you
Mm,
want to do with that time? For some people, they say, well, I used to knit and I ain't knitted. I got this. Get your knitting stuff out. Take 10
mhm,
minutes a week, right? I'm not saying to take these big, periods of time to say, well, I listened to that therapist on Andrea's podcast and she said I need to do 2 hours a day. No, that's not what I'm saying. But it might
yeah,
be
yeah,
an hour a week to do something that you enjoy or
yeah,
to even engage in something that you've never done before.
mhm,
During the
mhm,
pandemic, one, because we were just trying to find things to do that you could socially distance and be out. We started like going to different parks, taking walks
mm,
in different places where we had not walked before. I learned so much about flowers and plants and thorns and
mm,
different things like that
mhm,
just because of walking and going
yeah,
into different spaces where I hadn't done that before. And so challenging yourself to do things that are different or picking back up
mhm,
some of those hobbies and doing things that you've enjoyed that you haven't done in a while, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes it's none of that. Sometimes it's just to connect or reconnect
mhm,
with the people that are close to you, right?
mm.
I remember you telling me, I you said, "Girl, as much as I love Archie and Ian, I have not ever spent this much time with them." And
Girl,
it's amazing.
yes.
Part of it was amazing, and then I think part of it was surprising
It's
because
like,
you like, yeah, you were there for
I was
everything.
working so much, and
Yeah.
now I was home all the time, and I'm like, "This is a little foreign." It's a
Yes.
little foreign, but now I love it. I mean, I'm cooking more, I'm healthier than I've ever been.
Yeah.
I am always looking for great recipes,
But you look
and I
amazing.
see the
Yes.
difference that is made with even my
Mhm.
son having
Yeah.
his mother home.
Mhm.
We take for granted. I think I took for granted that time that, I didn't realize how important that time was. And there
Mhm.
are moments when I look at pictures when I was going through the drama
Yeah.
and I see pictures of Ian, like on Facebook, I'll get that little reminder and I'm like, I don't remember this. And I'll say,
Mm.
Archie, when was this? And he was like, oh, remember that? And I'm like, I don't remember because
Yeah.
I was so mired in the mess that it
Yeah.
consumed me.
Mhm.
So I'm very intentional now when I go
Yep.
to Ian's games. I just really watch him. We're
Mhm.
in the car and he fell asleep and I look over and I'm just savoring the moments.
Yeah.
I'm savoring the moments. And
Yes.
that has been probably one of the most no, not probably, the most healing aspect that has allowed me to push through and to
Mhm.
continue every single day
Yeah.
to seek the simple pleasures in
Mm.
life that
Yep.
doesn't cost money,
Nope.
that doesn't require me to,
Nope.
go to an extravagant hotel or an extravagant place or an extravagant, vacation or resort, like none of that. These are those simple moments that
Yeah.
now I'm able to really enjoy like I've never enjoyed before. And I
Mhm.
realized that I didn't see that aspect of my life
Yeah.
because I was hustling, I was
For sure.
grinding, I was
Yeah.
working, and I was mired in the muck and the mess
The
of the
stuff.
workplace
Yeah. Yeah.
and the stuff. And now that I don't have any stuff, girl, I'm like, I've got so much time on my hands. And it's just
Yeah.
amazing. And so
Yeah.
I really want people to understand that
Mm.
walking away is difficult. It
Yeah.
absolutely
For
is.
sure.
It was the scariest thing I've ever done in my
Yeah.
life because I literally didn't know where my next
What
paycheck
was
was going to
next?
come from.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't
Been there.
have any clue if I
Been
would
there.
ever be hired again, which I
Mhm.
haven't been in this business because I have been blackballed. That is true. That
Yeah.
is a fear and it is real, but I don't care
Yeah.
because I am the happiest I have ever been. And I really want people to know that speaking truth to power, there is a freedom. There's a
Yeah.
freedom and there is a peace. And when
Yeah.
you are able to speak your truth and
Mhm.
walk away, I believe the universe opens up to you in ways
For
that
sure.
was always waiting for you, but you were
Yeah.
so caught up with the other
The other
that
stuff.
God could the other
Yeah.
stuff, God said, "You don't have I don't have room to give you the good because
Right.
you're too busy with the bad. You gotta get let that
Right.
go." It's like an old
Yep.
it's a
So that I can.
relationship. You can let the
Yes.
relationship go so I can give you the
That's
good
right.
man. You gotta let the
That's right.
relationship go so I can give you the
That's
good woman.
right.
I gotta let
Yeah.
that relationship go so I can give you the good partner. You gotta let it go so now you have the time to fill it with the
Yep.
good stuff of life.
Yeah,
I thank you
yeah,
for looking through my pain, looking through
yeah.
my eyes to see that I was in pain.
Mhm.
And I, again, I give you all the praise and all the glory, first to God, but second to
Yes.
you, because had it not been for that moment, I know that I would not be here. And
Yeah.
there have been so many people through this journey who have helped me get to this point. But
Mm.
you are the very first person outside my own family who saw
Wow.
something in me. So, what is your advice to women? Because I know this is
Yeah.
really it affects everyone, but I want to say specifically, even for Black women,
Mhm.
but what do we need to do to, and you kind of talked about it a little bit before, but I want to leave with more of how
Mhm.
do we help each other and support one another? What are
Yeah.
some, maybe the top three tangible things that each and every one of us can do every single day to make
Yeah.
sure that our sister and our brother, that they're not in pain, and if they are, that they see us, that they are
Yeah.
connected to someone who cares,
Yeah.
so that they can push through to the other side?
Sure. Yeah. I would first say to be present.
Mm,
Um, so when you're talking to, sitting with that person, be present, right?
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
look into their eyes.
mhm.
I'm very touchy-feely, so I'll grab a person's hand and just kind of rub their hand,
And you have the
and
best
that's it.
hugs too, girl.
I get that so much. God bless.
You
Thank you,
do.
God, for my
You girl,
cushiness
God gave you the
and
hug ministry.
hugs. I mean, there is nothing like a good hug, don't go walking up to a complete
Mm,
stranger and just bear hugging them, but find that person or that somebody,
mhm,
that you can just connect with. But
mhm.
hear people and see people. Put the phone down just to be able to connect with people when you're with them. I try to be very intentional about putting my phone down if I'm meeting with someone. Now, if I've
Mhm.
like got a kid with an emergency, then that might be a little bit different.
It's
But
different.
I try to
Right.
keep my phone away so that I can actually connect with that person
Mhm,
and let them know that they are important and that I see them
mhm,
and that their time is valuable, so I'm here and I'm present with you. But the other thing I think is important too is just remembering that people go through things
yeah.
and honor the space if they request the space. And if they are
Mm,
in what I call space and you just haven't heard from them in a while, send a text message to say,
yes.
"Hey, just
Yes.
thinking about you." I try
Mhm,
to do that from time to time. That, "Hey, I know it's probably been a month or, a few weeks or whatever that I haven't reached out to you." Send the message to try to check
mhm.
in with somebody. Um,
I love it.
and I don't wanna leave this podcast without
Mhm.
giving people some things that are out there. The 988 lifeline, which is the suicide
Yes.
and crisis lifeline. 988, you can contact that lifeline. They also have a website. You can text the word home
Mhm.
to 741-741. That is the crisis text line. They're also on the internet. They have a website as well. They also have a UK number and a number for Ireland as
Okay.
well that can be text, because I know we're talking to people internationally. So we're not just here in the
Right.
US. So the
Mhm,
crisistextline.org also has resources. So just be aware of the
mhm.
resources that are out there. And then another thing is I have established a National No Secret Day, which will be May 1st of every year. It's coming
Mm,
up this May, where we're just going to honor people in whatever part of the mental health journey that they're on. If they've been through it, how can we support other people? But understanding that no secret is worth anyone taking their life.
amen.
So
Amen.
people, just be present,
Mm, be present.
be aware.
I love you. Mhm.
I appreciate you. Thank you for
I
having me
love you, sister.
on.
I love you, my sister. I love you, love you,
Mm,
love you, love you. And I can't say thank you enough. You know,
yes.
I end this show every single time with,
Mm,
and that is this notion that when people speak up, a lot of times when victims say, this is going on with me or this has happened to me, people say, I don't believe it for whatever reason that they don't
yeah.
believe it. There's this belief that they won't be believed. And I say to people
Mm,
all the time, what do you gain? What did I gain by speaking up?
for sure.
No one wants to be retaliated against.
Mhm.
No one wants to be dismissed. No one
Mhm.
wants to be ridiculed. No one wants
Mm.
to be gaslit. No one wants any of those isms in life to happen to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what you do gain, in addition to the retaliation and everything else that might come along, what you do gain is the freedom and the
Mm.
peace. And
Yeah.
that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And I end every show with this, that if no one else believes your story,
Mm.
I do.
Mm.
Nakisha believes your story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And thriving in life is
Yes.
your birthright.
Mhm. Mhm.
I love you.
I
I
love you.
thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
will have you back, my sister, again.
Yes.
Sage advice. We're so grateful for you. And
Yeah.
thank you for being part of this community, this collective voice, if you will, of people who are standing up for justice, because that's what this is. This is a
Yeah.
social justice movement. And I
Yes.
thank you for being part of it and for changing lives. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
You as well. Thank you for all that you do, all the work that you've done and will continue to do. Yeah.
God is good. And as I always say, and God is pleased.
Yes.
He is
Yes.
pleased.
Most
He is
importantly.
pleased.
Yeah.